Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here on this Saturday night. It is the Earthmaster with an update video on this wonderful Saturday evening, January 27th, 2024. It's about 10:35 p.m. here, California time. Looks like a 3.3 coming into the area right now of Northern California. Looks like that is showing up as well on the Petrolia station there, just outside of Eureka. One of the latest quakes on the globe. Let's go check that out real quick before we get into the Hawaii activity. This earthquake coming in looks like it's just south of the Gorda plate. That's going to be this plate boundary right here, the Pacific plate to the south. 3.3, 2.3 miles below, or 2.3 kilometers below the surface. Aside from that, we'll get to the west coast here in just a little bit. I want to kind of chat about Hawaii right now, as they are seeing quite a bit of earthquake activity here. And this is just, I believe, a fraction of the current ongoing seismicity activity across the area. As we zoom in to the, let me make sure I got the most recent map here. There we go. We'll zoom in just a little bit. I want to show you guys all the earthquake activity that's been taking place here across the just south of the caldera region, roughly in the southwest rift zone here of Kilauea Volcano. This seismograph station right here is just one of them that shows all the earthquake activity that began roughly, I would say, earlier this morning. This is a 12-hour map, and it pretty much started right before some of this activity that you're seeing at the top, and it's just been going all day long. That's a lot of earthquake activity. I'm sure there's probably at least, well, let me go back over here and check this. 30 windows open here. They show about 60 earthquakes or so, right? There's probably at least double this, maybe if not triple the amount of earthquake activity there on this chart. You got to remember, all of these little spikes here are indeed earthquakes as well, and there's quite a bit of them. Quite a bit of earthquake activity ramping up there across the Kilauea Volcano. Now, the latest update, let me double check it and see if they've mentioned anything with all this earthquake activity taking place. Sometimes when there's a large amount of activity, they'll put out a little special statement, but it doesn't look like it. This activity was put out this morning, and they talk about that there was low rates of seismicity over the past day, and that has changed. Definitely has changed to a more active earthquake activity event right now. And it's showing up, definitely showing up on the majority of these stations here. There's that one, which is the SDH. There's a couple over here, KKO. That one's not even showing anything, so I think that one's irrelevant. Here's another one, RIMD. Look at all that activity stirring up out here on this seismograph station. So quite a bit. Even this one's picking it up as well. So what's going on? We definitely got the potential here of seeing eruptive activity across the Kilauea Volcano soon, I think. With this amount of earthquake activity ramping up, it does look like we could get going here pretty quickly. This is an older image from, looks like back in December of last year. Not for sure why that one's hasn't been updated. Here's the thermal cam from the 26th. Not for sure why they don't have it set up for today or most recent. And that's an older one as well. Obviously, it's not sunny, I don't think, out there in the... is this an old one, too? Goodness, what's going on with all their webcams? You know, it's looks like someone forgot to work on them or something. Who knows? This one's from January 19th. What's going on here, guys? Goodness. But I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt if we see this thing possibly kick up overnight here. I'm not going to stay up all night to watch it, but the way the earthquake activity is behaving here, with a couple hundred earthquakes in the south area of the caldera region, definitely could see that activity kick up overnight. Of course, back in 2018, you guys remember that across the lower east rift zone here. Here's the caldera, former lava lake. The activity right now that we're seeing is roughly It's around the southwest rift zone, but a little bit more centered over here around number 3 or so. That activity back in 2018, of course, was an extensive, long duration that eventually found its way up here towards the lower east rift zone back in 2018. But we're looking at a lot of swelling going on here in terms of inflation across the southwest rift zone. Let's go check out the tremor or the tilt meter here tonight, see what we have. Definitely going down. That's a little surprising. So it's acting a little different in terms of what we have seen here recently with each inflation event getting higher and higher. So I don't know if this means that we've reached our maximum pressure level down below the surface or not. It's very possible with all the earthquake activity we're seeing right now. I do have a station there monitored, Hot Caves, Hawaii. It's not picking up all the smaller quake activity, but it does pick up the 2s and 3s that are occurring there across the Kilauea volcano. So we'll watch this overnight. The official count so far is 63, but I guarantee you there's a lot more than what is shown here on this map. The largest one looks to be, let's see what we got, 3.0. And the majority of this activity, if you look, is just below the surface. Just really just below the surface. There's no deep activity here. So this leads me to believe that we could see fissure activity open up overnight. Could even happen right now. We'll have to wait and watch and see what happens here. But I'm still kind of leaning towards the potential of maybe some fissure activity out here across the older vent regions. But it looks like it's one of those things. We kind of have to just wait and see. Let's see what happens by the morning. So let's back out of here. That's definitely been stirring up all day today. Far as the rest of the map here, let's see what we got across this area. Do we have any further large quake activity? The majority of this is from morning time period. So we really haven't seen too much newer activity here in terms of larger movement. Of course, there's going to be some smaller quakes here in the clustering of activity there across the Philippines southward. Newer quake activity looks around the northern Mariana Trench here. That's going to be this quake right here. Within the last, I don't know, about last couple hours or so, it looks like that 4.6, 179 kilometers there into that subduction zone. There is another one upstream outside of Tokyo, Japan, a 4.9 into the Japan Trench here, the subduction zone area right here. And it looks like, for the most part, the Kurokama-Chaka there remaining fairly quiet. New Zealand getting a handful of 3s once again, some deeper movement quakes there into the area of New Zealand. Got to watch that because it's been showing quite a bit of earthquake activity here recently. Let me go check this out here on the GeoNet servers and see what we have here. 3.5, 30 kilometers deep here, just off the North Island coast. And there's been obviously a couple more that haven't been felt. We can bring up all these magnitudes here, and even a 2.6 here just off the North Island, 93 kilometers deep there. So it looks as though we are seeing some deeper activity there across the Hikurangi subduction zone. That's what it looks like to me by looking at some of the depth of these earthquakes there into that area. 129 kilometers deep here for a 2.6, 132 kilometers deep here for that 3.1. See, these are super deep earthquakes and associated with the Hikurangi that sits just off the shore here, the east coast area, right about here southward. You can kind of see it right there on the map. It ends roughly right here northeast of Christchurch. That is a major subduction zone, obviously capable of producing some big time earthquakes. Big time. So got to watch that, showing some deeper movement quakes down there. Let's see what else we have here across the area. One earthquake way out in western China. Looks like a 5.0. That one coming in early this morning, so that's an older quake. The Atlantic Ocean, fairly quiet out here. We do have one earthquake in Greenland. That's going to be a 4.4 kicking off earlier this afternoon time period. But aside from that, not a whole lot showing up through the Atlantic. Let's check out the Iceland activity, see if anything else is going on here across the area of Iceland. Here's a 12-hour run of earthquakes. Shows about 21 earthquakes out here. Not a big deal. Not seeing any elevated conditions out across Grindavik yet. The activity appears to be maybe slowing down. The 4-hour run here around the Svartsengi area in terms of inflation still shows, though, kind of a little bit dropping and then leveling off, and then it looks like more recently one run shows still inflation, and that's just the Svartsengi area. If we were to check the Grindavik region, well, let's see what we got here real quick. Stand by right here. This is for Grindavik, 8-hour runs. Still going up there, so it still looks like there is definitely some inflation going on there across the area directly underneath Grindavik. We'll continue to watch that. I think before any earthquake or before any eruptive fissure activity happens, we'll obviously see uptick in earthquake activity. That's for sure. Similar to what we're seeing over in Hawaii. That's why I think we're going to see potentially see this kick off here tonight. Just my observation. Into the Pacific Northwest, not a whole lot being reported. It is a weekend. USGS normally does not show even the smaller quakes out here until Monday morning once I get in the office and review the seismicity that occurred throughout the weekend. Unless it's like a 2.5 or above, then it will show up on the preliminary data system. But yeah, that's what it is. That's what they do. Reno, handful of earthquakes outside, south of Reno in the Sparks area. Nothing big, just a couple smaller quakes out here. Been kind of a little unrest going on out here in terms of earthquake activity around the Reno area in the last couple months. We've noticed there was a little swarm up here just north outside of the Reno region. I think it was last month. So just kind of building up a little bit of stress up there, it looks like, on the eastern side of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Far as the area across the geysers. I had somebody ask me earlier today if there's actually geysers up there, and there's really not. I don't know why they call it the geysers, but there are no geysers, active geysers out here. And the 4-pointers that occur, 3-pointers that occur are very common. I've seen a couple social media sites out there doing a little bit of fear-mongering and a little bit of, stuff I don't like, taking advantage of some of these earthquakes that occur out here. And they occur on a regular occasion. I just want to show you guys here real quick. We'll do a little quick history. Let's just go 4.0. Well, I mean, literally, if we wanted to do all the earthquakes, let's just go 1.0 and above. And I want to show you guys how many earthquakes occur out here. Let's go back just to 2020. And we're going to draw a little rectangle or a little bitty square out here in this area around Cobb Mountain, which is south of Clear Lake. It is into the volcanic field out here. Obviously, there's still some heated areas underneath there, right? Make sure I got this set up correctly. Ooh, let me break open this other map here real quick. All over the place. Hello. All right, so Cobb Mountain. There's a community of Cobb. Let's go over and check this out real quick. I think we're within that zone. A little bit further over here. I think this will work. Okay. Check out how many earthquakes have occurred here just in the last 4 years. This is, oh man, hopefully it's going to be a lot. That's going to be quite a bit. I did 1.0 and above, and I should have done less or a little bit higher magnitude because it's common to see hundreds of earthquakes on one day, on a given day period. So there's the reason why it's taken so long. So these are 1.0 and above. 12121. Goodness. 12,121 earthquakes in the last 4 years, right? And some of these magnitudes out here get up in the 4 and even in the higher range. I think it's been a little while since we've seen a 5-pointer, but 4-pointers are common out here. Very common. The last 4.5 was just last year. You know, I see a lot of sites out here kind of fear mongering these 4-pointers that occur, but you have to understand that this is very common earthquake activity out here, and there's a whole process involved in the earthquake activity that's taken place out here. There's energy plants all over the place that utilize the area, the heated areas below, to create energy, hydrothermal plants, and it does cause earthquakes. Not going to go specifically into the details there, but look it up. I think it's still called Calpine Hydrothermal Operations here. And so earthquake activity here is very common. I just don't like it when sites take advantage of, you know, a 4-pointer. Okay, 4-pointer in Northern California, look out. Big one's coming tomorrow. You know, the big one is going to come when it wants to come. It's not going to be forecasted. It's not going to be predicted. We just got to be prepared. But I just wanted to show everyone, everyone out here, that earthquakes are very common in this area. Okay. Yeah, you can imagine the number, right? If I were to go back the last 20 years or so, it would be crazy. But let's not go there. Too many earthquakes. Just today alone, look, got about 48 earthquakes in here. And again, they're around the hydrothermal plants out there. Okay, moving on. Southern California, fairly quiet for now. A little small microquake here off of the San Gabriel fault zone, it looks like. Mountains all over the place, fault systems all over the place. Southern California is a very complex area of the plate boundaries here, where there's multiple fault systems of various types out here. And the big one, of course, you know what the majority of us hear about, is going to be occurring right here on this southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. It's going to be, I think they said, accumulated strain could be enough for an 8.1 magnitude earthquake when this does decide to go, which we don't know. I guarantee you no one's going to predict it. They could say, yeah, in the next 20 years the big one's going to hit. But come on, realistically, that's ridiculous. Think about it. All right. What else we got here? Louisiana been having a little bit of activity out here. They did see that 3.5 earlier this morning. Doesn't look like anything else has come in here for now. And that is out there in the oil fields, gas and oil fields out there. So areas along the North American plate out here are squeezing a little bit, getting in on some of that pressure that's building. The plates are always underneath strain out here, including away from the plate boundaries. One earthquake here off the coast of Nicaragua, 4.6. This comes after that larger quake activity there in Guatemala. Has it been over 24? Yeah, I guess it's been over 24 hours here. So that means I better lower this down, right? There we go. I guess that's a 24-hour map, somewhere around there. Haven't really seen any major aftershock activity. Doesn't mean there isn't any. But I'm really not seeing all that much activity following that deeper movement there off the coast of Guatemala yesterday. It looks like, if anything, we've seen a migration of the pressure southward against these plate boundaries. Also, it looks like some activity stirring up across the Puerto Rico region. See what we got here. That's a little concerning. 4.5 here just north of the Puerto Rico Trench region along this plate boundary. A couple other earthquakes out here as well. This region, a lot of chat on if this area is capable of producing a significant size quake, which I think it is. The subduction zone over here as well. It's one of those things as well. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There might be some little telltale signs of some swarming going on, but you know, the activity like this does happen on occasion as well. It's mostly smaller quake activity. This 4.5 is a little up there. But if we look at the last 30 days of activity out here across the Puerto Rico Trench, the majority of it sits around the Puerto Rico mainland area across this region of Puerto Rico. It's been doing that for a couple years, specifically in this area. It's got to do with the Morotas Trough and the Puerto Rico Trench up here, putting a squeeze, so to speak, across this area. But this earthquake, 4.5, kind of out and away from this normal area. So we'll keep an eye on that. Potentially could be looking at some movement here. And if you think about it, the Middle America Trench here What goes on here plays a lot on what goes on here across the Caribbean plate. So it looks like it may be that earthquake yesterday putting a little bit of a migrational pressure and squeeze out here across this area of the Caribbean plate. And like I say, I've noticed it over there across Puerto Rico, and also down south here, noticing a little trend of uptick across Costa Rica and off the coast here of Ecuador. 4.3, 20 kilometers deep. All right, what else do we have here? That is that another 3.1, or is that a different 3.1? Let me see what we got. I think that's a different 3.1. Hell no, I don't. It's hard to say. Maybe the EMSC is getting in on there, but the USGS reporting a 3.3 at 10:30 my time. Tremor. Let's see what we got going on for tremor. I haven't really been checking it much because there really hasn't been any tremor. It's been a little on the quiet side here. 39 epicenters of tremor that is associated with the Cascadia subduction zone. We haven't really seen any major event since October of 2022. We've seen a couple small events there back in April and May of last year, but that was about it. Aside from that, things are, I would say, unusually quiet here in terms of tremor. I don't think that's good news. Can't be good news. But I guess we'll have to watch and see what happens here. Those regular occurrence intervals are no longer predictable, it looks like here for now. What it means, I guess we'll find out as we continue on spinning on this planet. All right, let's see here. Yeah, like I say, you got to keep an eye on this. Hawaii showing activity like crazy and very shallow, very, very shallow. Like I say, I'm thinking it's a 50-50 chance that we'll see this thing open up some activity overnight, fissure activity. Just my guess. Not a prediction, not a forecast. Just I'm looking at this activity, how shallow it is, the intensity. It's getting up there. Let me refresh this map again and see what it looks like. Did I refresh it? The USGS, hello. There we go. All right. The closest one around all this activity is going to be this seismograph station here. This one doesn't quite look like it's as active as, say, this one. This one looks a little bit more active here. But I guess, we'll see what happens, right? Either way, that's a lot of earthquake activity, and normally before eruptive fissure activity happens, we see earthquake activity in a large fashion. So I'll put 2 and 2 together. Well, that would mean that something may happen overnight. Continue to watch that. All right, what else? Space weather activity. Mellowing out here. We're mellowing out in terms of that unstable solar flare activity we've seen a couple days ago. Notice this line is pretty much cruising along. Flat line here across the lower C flare category. Currently flaring at a C1.2. Most of the active regions that have been crackling here with C and M flares are way out here on the western limb now. And I don't think they're going to be of concern at all. Probably by tomorrow, they'll be out of sight, out of mind. And we're left with a whole lot of disorganized sunspots out here. Not looking likely that we'll see anything ramping up from these little sunspots. Well, I shouldn't call them little. They're big, but they're very stable. 95% chance for a C flare, M flare at 25, and that could be because of the remainder of these sunspots on the western limb. Once they're out of sight, then these will drop. Not a whole lot of hope in terms of the aurora forecast here. Looking pretty green across the board. That means not a whole lot of greenery up in the sky, although the 30-minute aurora forecast does show some very minimal conditions up there across Canada, Alaska, Greenland as well. But really not expecting much, folks. Space or Storm Prediction Center here. Current day 1 outlook looks like they're still having a little bit of activity across the eastern portion of the country, mainly due to a 2% tornado probability here. All right, let's take a look at the numerical models here. A lot of people wondering What's going on in Southern California? When's that big storm hitting? Well, it's oh goodness. Well, that's good. This is looking a little bit more impressive here for rainfall rates for my neck of the woods, and in fact, the majority of California. As we put this into motion here, Southern California getting in on some decent moisture as well. Now, I think it's a secondary system here that they're a little bit more concerned with, but it looks like that model run kind of wimps out. You guys see that? Earlier this morning, when we were checking out this model, it showed more of a direct impact with heavier rain. Now it looks like it's backing off. That is just one weather model. That's a GFS model. The ECMWF model here. Let's go back here. Oh, well, this is only gone for a couple runs here, so we're not even going to be able to see all of what takes place. So I have to check tomorrow morning. Either way, long-term models here, excuse me, does show, of course, the storm track over here. A lot of heating going on out there. I've seen some record high temps out there across portions of the east lately. It does look like it will stay that way for a little bit as we head into the first week of February. We do have a pretty decent trough out here across the west coast that will limit the amount of cold air that comes down. It's kind of interesting here. It looks like things may be quite wet out here, or at least cooler than normal as we head into the February time frame. I'm going to check out the windy map here real quick and see what we have. Am I the only one that has hundreds and hundreds of bookmarks? Probably not. But I do. I'm going to use all of them. That's a promise. Rain accumulation here over the next few days, next 5 days, next 10 days. This will include all the storms that are expected to hit us here along the west coast. These are some rainfall totals up around Redding area here in Northern California. Could get roughly over 4 inches of rainfall just outside of Chico here. Looks like maybe 3, a little bit less as you head down south into the San Joaquin Valley. But Southern California, notice down here across areas of the Santa Barbara area, Los Angeles as well, getting in on some decent moisture from all of these storms. So that is the ECMWF model. The GFS doesn't quite get as aggressive down here across Los Angeles. It keeps most of the moisture up north into Northern California, and a little bit less as well. But over here along the coast, these guys are always getting lots and lots of rainfall outside of Eureka. But the pattern, I think the pattern here, you can see the Pacific jet out here, just kind of keeping that zonal flow there aimed right at the west coast. So we'll continue to watch that, and I'm ready for some more rain. All right, one more glance here at the earthquake activity. Shows the last one at 22:27. Remember, it looks like these, I don't know. I mean, it's not showing all of the earthquake activity, so I think they have it set maybe for a certain magnitude, but I guarantee you there's a lot more. Not going to go counting, but there's definitely a lot more in there. Yellowstone, little spike of an activity there at Yellowstone. See what we got. Forgot to check out Yellowstone here. Well, where's all our maps? What's going on here? A couple spikes of an earthquake out here throughout the last 24 hours. I don't know if these are geysers or what that is. Really not showing up across any of the other stations here. Just kind of weird. All right. I am out of here. We'll catch you guys back here in the morning. We'll see what happens overnight with Hawaii Volcano. Till then, enjoy your Friday night, and we'll catch you guys back here early Sunday morning update. Have a good night, folks. Stay safe.